Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from many and all corners of the nerd universe. We find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ron of Nerd Culture, and our guest on this episode is historical fiction writer Teri M Brown. Teri, how are you? Welcome in.
Hey, I'm fine. Thanks for having me today.
Well, thanks for being with us. Now, if you have any questions for Teri M Brown as we go throughout the course of this episode, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Our producers are going to be keeping an eye on it as we go throughout the course of this program. But in the meantime, Teri, what would you say were some of your favorite books and or writers growing up?
Oh, wow. I was that kid that read everything. Like if there were words in a book, I was reading it. My mom caught me under the covers so many nights with the flashlight because I was told go to bed, and I had to read a book. I did all the normal stuff that teen girls did. I read all the Nancy Drew books. I mean, that was a big thing when I was growing up. And there was another series of the mystery that was Trixie Belden, I think was her name. And there were like all of those books. I read all of the Hardy Boy books too, because it made me angry that they were for boys and you weren't supposed to read them if you were a girl. So I read all of those too. The Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret was a big book for teen girls, preteen girls. And I read that. I read everything and every genre. Like if someone handed me a book, I was going to sit down and try to read it. The only thing I never got into too much was the horror books. And it's not that I think there's anything wrong with them. I have such a vivid imagination that when I read something like that, it stays with me for so long, and then I don't sleep well, and then I have trouble like going outside in the dark, all of the things.
Yeah, I wasn't too big on horror growing up, whether it be in books, film. It really wasn't my thing. And as a legendary actor once said, the horror. But anyway, some things work, some things don't. But hey, you know what? The horror season, if you will, October, is right around that itty bitty little corner. So for those of you who enjoy the genre, hey, you have your fun. We'll be over here on a separate part of the arena, as it were. But hey, I mean, there are exceptions to every rule, right? I mean, there's a few scary movies that I'm okay watching every now and again. There's a few I would rather not. No, thank you. But there are some classics out there. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, please, by all means. The spooky season's right around that corner, on the corner of Know Your Role Boulevard and Jabroni Drive. So feel free to drop that in the comments. But when did you decide to become a writer?
So, it's funny. As a little girl, I said I wanted to be an author. But I also said that I wanted to be an Olympic ice skater, and I wanted to be a brain surgeon. Well, I am the klutziest person you've ever met. So the idea that I ever was going to be an Olympic skater is pretty crazy. And then I don't like the sight of blood. So why I ever thought that I was going to do surgery is crazy. So I don't know that I really understood when I was making that statement. Then when it was time for college, there's no way my parents were paying for me to get a degree in something like creative writing, because that's like getting a degree in something like waitressing, and they weren't going to do that. So I had to get a job, like get a degree that would get me an actual occupation. What's really funny about that is I got a degree in psychology, a degree in sociology. I got a minor in math and a minor. Oh no, the minor was in sociology. And then I can teach school. I've never been a teacher, and I've never used any of those degrees professionally. So I tease my parents all the time that they would have been better off letting me get my degree in writing. But in 2000, I started writing for small businesses. which is very different than what I'm doing now. But the small businesses, there's, you figure in 2000, the internet was really, really, really now becoming the thing. Prior to about 1998, most people didn't even know what it was. And all of these companies were putting their businesses now up on the internet and had no idea what to put with their on their websites. And they often would write things that were terrible. I don't mean like, foul. I just mean they don't know how to write. And it didn't make their company look good. And so I was working with those companies and essentially helping them write their little blurbs and the things that went out there into the world written. And I did that for 17 years. And then it was in 2017 that I finally started doing what I've wanted to do for a long time, which was write fiction.
Oh my goodness. One of the things you could have told your parents is like, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry you wasted 40 G's on all these degrees, but I should have just gone on my own and become a writer at some point or done something else.
At some point, right?
We wasted all that money. You should have just tried your luck at the time when Bob Barker was still hosting and try your chance at winning the Showcase Showdown.
Exactly.
Man, that was such a good show back in the day.
Oh yeah, Spin the Wheel. Yeah, you could watch that every day it came on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and he always had a way of entertaining the crowd, Bob Barker. He always had a way about him.
He did.
R.I.P., by the way, to the legendary host known as Bob Barker. There you go. 99 years old. Heck of a run, though.
That was.
Heck of a run. Not many people can say 99 times around the sun.
No, absolutely not.
But
and how long did he do that show?
30. I want to say it was 35, 37.
I mean, most people don't do any job for 35, 37 years. Like, that's crazy that he did that for that long and was that entertaining for that long.
Yeah, I want to say it was 37 because I think after the 37th year, he, passed the torch onto Drew Carey. That was a mistake. And I would have picked somebody else. I'm sorry. Look, I know he has his fair share of fans, but Drew, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There are, you could have called me. I would have done it.
You would have done it.
I would, honestly, a long time ago in a galaxy that's not so far away, it's only up north, I used to have this dream of becoming a game show host because I would have loved to have done it because one of the things I love doing is entertaining the masses. So if they had called me and said, hey, Bob's retiring, we want you to move out to Burbank. You willing to do it? Well, I've never been to California, but I'll give it a shot. Why not? I got nothing to lose. And then some years later, Howie Mandel, Deal or No Deal came to a close and they rebooted it years later on CNBC. And then again, they cut it. And I'm thinking, why didn't Howie just call me?
Right.
Honestly, Howie is such a good entertainer and he's a great host. Howie, I don't know why you didn't call me up, man. I would have done it. Seriously. I remembered all the young briefcase models' names. I remembered most of them anyway. Because I've watched the show so many times.
Right. Well, you would have been perfect. I always wonder why people don't call. I see things happen and it's like, why didn't they talk to me? I could have fixed this.
I would have boosted the ratings respectively for both shows if they had given me the chance to prove myself, because everyone deserves a shot to prove themselves. With that being said, what we are doing here is having a really good time reminiscing about the dreams of old. And I quote, I'm your host, Ryan of Neuroculture. We're here with Teri M Brown, historical fiction writer. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. We'd really appreciate that. With that being said, Teri, what would you say are some of the biggest rewards about being a writer?
Oh, so, I haven't hit, the point where I can say, oh, the movie rights, I'm not at that stage yet. But the things that I have found to be just amazingly just exciting is the people that I'm getting to meet. I've gotten to meet quite a few podcast hosts, which are great because, like Ryan, where we get to talk a lot and discuss different aspects of writing that, it's not like I can sit around and chat with my husband all day about them, because after a while he gets tired of hearing the same conversations over and over. Right. But I also love meeting people who love to read. And so this idea that, that you sit out there and you get to talk with readers about reading is just phenomenal to me. There's nothing better than I love going to a live event and people ask questions and they just want to know about, like, what's it like to write, and do you sit down for hours every day, and what does your office look like, and those kinds of questions. And it's just a lot of fun to meet people who are just interested in what I'm doing.
I would say that's a great answer. It also goes back to what a former mentor of ours said long ago, where all you got to do is take a look. It's in a book.
Yeah.
All you got to do. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. But on the flip side of the fence, though, what are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer?
So I thought that being a writer meant that I would write. But being a writer also means that I have to market, and I have to figure out how to find people to read my book. So the saddest story that I have is my first book was Sunflowers Beneath the Snow. It came out in January of 2022, came out on the 25th of January. And I sat in front of my computer with my Amazon open. It wasn't selling. And do you know why it wasn't selling? Nobody knew it was out there. I didn't even know I was supposed to do any pre-marketing. I just figured you'd put it on Amazon and bam, the book would sell, because as a writer, I thought I wrote. And then what it turns out is as a writer, you wear a bazillion hats. And I think that's the hard. It's not that it's hard so much as that it's been an adjustment. And there's been a kind of a steep learning curve as I figured out, like, what works, what doesn't. Everyone will tell you, oh, you need to go do these 432 things. And most of them don't really help. You're just spinning your wheels. And so it's figuring out who's my audience, where do they live, how am I going to touch them? So I would say that's probably the most challenging part. I love the writing aspect. And I don't even mind the editing aspect, but the marketing, it's not that I dislike it. It's just that I find it more challenging.
Yeah, that's fair. That's completely fair. And speaking of which, I want to share something with you who may be watching or listening to this, as well as our guest here. Sunflowers Beneath the Snow. I'm just curious, how did you come up with this idea, and what was the process like putting this story together?
Yeah, so Sunflowers Beneath the Snow is about 3 generations of Ukrainian women. And the really crazy thing is this came out 2 weeks before the current Ukrainian crisis. So I had no idea, of course, that was going to happen. And then the book came out, and 2 weeks later, Russia invaded Ukraine. So the timing was, just crazy phenomenal. But I got the idea because it's loosely based on a true story that the youngest of those 3 generations told me. I have a friend of my daughter's who's from Ukraine. She came to my home in 2016, told me this incredible story that I could not believe was true. Figured we were having a communication glitch. So I asked her a lot of questions, determined what she had told me was indeed what I thought she told me, and thought, oh my gosh, that needs to be like a book or a movie. And I tell everyone I wrote 82,000 words of fiction so I could tell 3 pages of truth. So the last 3 pages of the last chapter of this book are true, and everything else was me making up a story to get to that point.
Wow. That is, I've heard of math equations in my day, but put together all those words for 3 pages of goodness gracious, that's a new one on me, folks, let me tell you. But that's impressive.
Yeah, it was a cool little story, but she didn't have the backstory. She didn't know how what happened. She just knows that it did. And I thought, well, you can't have a 3-page story. I mean, you can if you're writing short stories, but that's not what I was after. And so I just kind of took it with, okay, if this thing happened in 2016, then something had to have started back in the 1970s. And that's where I'm going to go. And I'm going to create a backstory so that I can get to this little bit of truth. What's really funny is I got a good review from Kirkus, and as an author, getting a Kirkus review is something that you want. And it was very good. I loved the review, but the last sentence was that the ending was rather improbable, but it did wrap everything everything up nicely. And I laugh because the ending that they called improbable is the only true thing in the story.
Gee willikers. Everybody's a critic.
Everybody.
I mean, we've known this for years. For those of you who work in any field in any way, shape, or form, everybody's got a critic. Everybody, they just do. Whether you're a writer, a producer, an actor, someone working behind the scenes, working in front of the camera, behind the whatever it is that you're into, everybody's a critic. Hey, we've all been there. We're all guilty of it, folks. We've all been to that table. We've all had a seat at the table. But with that being said, what advice would you give to aspiring writers out there?
Yeah, so I tell aspiring writers like 4 main things. The first thing is start writing. You're never going to become better by waiting. You don't wait for a particular degree. You don't wait to take a certain class. You don't wait. Go ahead and start writing. Because the truth is those first things that you put down, they're not going to be very good. And that's okay. The first thing that people paint, that's usually not very good. You have to start learning somewhere. So start writing. That's number 1. And number 2, when you finally have something that you feel pretty good about, get someone to look at it, someone you trust, and then listen to what they have to say. Because your audience isn't you in your head. Your audience are people out there. So have a listen. What do they say? Do they have any good ideas? Is there anything you could do to tweak? The third thing almost sounds like it contradicts the second, which is you don't have to listen to everyone. So, for instance, An Enemy Like Me, I had several beta readers. You look at everything that they say, and you can't follow everybody's ideas because they contradict one another. And so what you have to do then is start looking at, okay, so I tried that. It doesn't really work for me. It's not my style. I don't feel comfortable with that. So it's okay to say to some pieces of advice, not really my thing, and put it to the side. And then the fourth thing is something new that I've added, which is start marketing now. Like if you think that you're going to write a novel, that's something that you want to do, go ahead and get a website now. Go ahead and start building a newsletter now. Go ahead and start putting things out on social media now. Start getting people to know who you are now, so that when you finally have something that you want people to start looking at and reading, you have some kind of a base. Those people who know you and like you for who you are and now want to interact with your writing. So those are my 4 things.
That's even better than the Fantastic Four, which goes all the way back to the 1860s. No, 1960s, I think. Well, 60s, it was somewhere in between that. I know it was Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and a whole bunch of other people who created those characters. So hats off, guys. Hats off to you. Woo! There you go. 4 great pieces of advice. That's awesome sauce if I ever heard some. I'm just saying. Now, have there been any special memories for you from being at events or conventions, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
I think the most exciting thing that ever happened to me was, so I'm a grandma, and I have, I'm a grandma times many, but I'm a grandma, and I have at the time she was almost 3, or maybe just turned 3. And we were at a local bookstore, and I knew that the local bookstore had my book, and I was curious where they had put it. And of course, they put it with local authors, which is where I figured they'd put it. But we walked in, and I had her on my hip, and she found it. She pointed and went, "Oh, that's Sunflowers Beneath the Snow. That's by Teri M Brown. She's my Gigi." And I thought, I've made it in the world. What more do you need than that? So, yeah, that's one of my favorite stories.
Such a sweet kid.
Yeah, that's my Gigi.
It's funny you say that, because my mother, who's also a grandmother, my niece and my nephew call her Gigi.
Gigi,
it's a very common thing.
Right. Gigi, Mimi.
Yeah.
Mama, Mima, there's all of them out there. And I was just going to be grandma. I was fine with being grandma. That's who I was going to be. But she started calling me Gigi, and they would say grandma, and she'd say, no, Gigi. And that's who I've become. So.
Truly wonderful. The mind of a child is.
Yeah.
That's a quote from a certain fandom that takes place in a galaxy far, far
Far,
away.
far away.
See what I did there, ladies and gentlemen? If you get what I'm getting at, then 2 thumbs up. Once again, we are here with historical fiction writer Teri M Brown on this episode of And I Quote. If this is your first time here with us, welcome. Don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions for Teri, please let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Whether you are joining this live or on the replay, we greatly appreciate your support. With that being said, what are some of your favorite movies or TV series, past or present?
Ooh, favorite movies. Okay, so I went years without seeing any movies. I had 4 small children and, limited time and whatever. So just the other day, you're going to laugh at this, because the third is coming out of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, right? I finally saw the first one. Okay. How I missed that movie, I have no idea. I watched that. I laughed. I had tears rolling down my face. I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Like, I want to go get some Windex and actually see if it works, on zits and things. Like, it was so funny to me. And then the whole interaction and the walking up to their house. They live in this nondescript neighborhood in this huge house with the statues. I love a movie that can make me laugh. And I like corny humor. And so those kinds of like clean, corny humor, there's nothing better than just a good laugh. I used to like all of the, now Steve Martin, all of his stuff, like The Jerk. There's the one scene in The Jerk where he's leaving he's leaving his wife. And he says, well, then I'm going to take this lamp and this ashtray, and he's grabbing all the things and he's walking out. Things like that just make me laugh. I like clean, corny humor.
The cans. Stay away from the cans.
The cans. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was the first thing that came to my mind. And when you mentioned Steve Martin, I'm thinking, did you see him in Three Amigos? Did you see that one?
Yes.
He's a sweater.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in the middle of a desert and you give a guy a sweater.
Right. It's like, oh. And I like scrolling through and seeing the little shorts and things that are on YouTube and other places that are just funny. The just funny ones that just make you start to laugh because they're just stupid and crazy. And I think it's because in today's world, there's so many things that are just, heavy and difficult. Mm-hmm. And if I can spend 2 minutes just having a good belly laugh, and I'm terrible at remembering names, but there's one guy on YouTube that he's doing the ones about the English language. Mm. And so he'll say things like, how do you spell dough? D-O-U-G-H. So, through is throw. No, that's through, and it's funny to me just because I know the English language is so crazy. So yeah. I just like humor. I like humor stuff. I also like spy movies. A good spy movie is good. My husband likes any movie that is loud, has lots of guns and lots of car chases, and there's lots of shooting, yet no one really dies because apparently no one's a good shot in these shows. And they like blow out all the windows, but no one inside goes, I've always been amazed by those action adventure type movies like that, because there's like all of this violent stuff happening and then everyone walks away.
I mean, what you just described there sounds like every Fast and Furious movie that's ever come
exactly,
out.
Exactly.
Most of them are terrible. Most of them are. But there are some that stand out from the rest. I think the first 3 are great. I think 4 was a misfire. 5 is great because The Rock was introduced as Hobbs. And then he comes back in Fast and Furious 6 to, sort of kind of wrap up that storyline. And then Furious 7 came out at the moment that, unfortunately, Paul Walker is no longer with us. it was a nice ending for his character. It was a good wrap up to the whole thing. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, 7, it's enough. Let it go. Paul's dead. There's nowhere you can go. But apparently there is, because Vin Diesel's like, it's about family. No, it's not, Vinny boy. It's about making billions and billions and billions of dollars and calling it a tribute to Paul. No, half the time it's not even a tribute to anybody but yourself. So way to go with that ego boost there, Vinny boy. That's not a smart way to live, man. Ego is a bad trait. It really is. But most people have one. Sometimes we can't help it. But then again, Vin, your ego is bigger than Texas, Florida, California, and Rhode Island Comic-Con combined. So yeah, nice work there, Vinny. Anyway, there's some good ones you brought up there. The classics with Steve Martin are great. If you're looking for really good, funny ones, I was born and raised in the 90s, so I can give you a whole smorgasbord of great 90s comedies. So if you're ever looking for more comedic,
send me a list.
Okay,
Absolutely.
well then I'll behind the scenes, I'll send you some emails with a few lists or some titles that I remember.
Sounds great. Yeah.
That may spring to mind.
Well, see, and so that would be the period of time I wasn't doing a lot of movie watching, because you're the same age as my kids. So I was
Thanks for dating me. No.
Yeah.
All right. It's okay.
So I was busy raising babies. I didn't have time to be watching movies.
Okay. You're a full-time mom. Full-time mom. It's okay.
I was.
Family's important. Raising the kids right is important. So I grew up with 2 older brothers, so my mom had her hands full with my 3 sons and 3's company, da-da-da. So, yeah, you're welcome, Mom. There was 3 of us. I'm the youngest of the group, so I got away with everything. So, good things, man.
You do know why the youngest gets away with everything, don't you?
Why is that?
Moms have gotten tired.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, let the baby do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Number one. So the oldest kids were told, no, no, no. The youngest one is like, okay, he's not like gonna die. So you just, and you say to the older kids, give it to him. But I had it first. Give it to him. I don't want to hear him scream. So it's just, we've gotten tired. And so it's, you just look and you say, is this really a fight I want to have? And with the first kid, the answer was yes, far more often. By the time you get down to 3, 4, the fight that you want to have, it's like, no, it's not poison and it's not sharp. Yeah, he can do it.
Leave him to his own devices. That's funny. But yeah, there's some good comedies out there. You mentioned spy movies. That's, hey, I grew up on James Bond. So
yes. Yeah.
And the Mission Impossibles are good too.
Right.
With TC Legend, also known as Tom Cruise. So there's definitely some good spy movies. Another good spy movie I think somewhat gets overlooked is The Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Henry Cavill. That's a really good spy movie.
It is.
As a tribute to the original series. So for those of you who grew up in the, way back when machine, sorry, I wasn't there. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is really good. So check it out. Henry Cavill proves that he can play a James Bond. Honestly, if they're going to cast someone as James Bond right now, give it to Henry freaking Cavill. The guy knows what he's doing.
But of course, they haven't asked you, have they?
They haven't. Well, I can't do it. I can't.
No, but they haven't even consulted with you.
They probably
because here
should.
It is. You have the answer again.
That's true. I've been a fan since 1995's GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan. Great actor, great performer. I've been a fan of Pierce for a number of years, and he's still, even to this day, Pierce is a strong actor.
Mm-hmm.
He's a strong actor. Well done, Pierce Brosnan. I actually just saw that. Speaking of spy movies, this isn't so much of a spy movie as it is a heist movie. The Thomas Crown Affair.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
With Pierce Brosnan, Rene Russo, and who plays the FBI agent? Kevin Bacon.
Oh.
So if you want a really good heist movie. Now, granted, I want to give credit where credit's due, because this iteration of the Thomas Crown Affair is a remake of the film that came out 30 years earlier, that starred Steve McQueen. And who was the woman in Bonnie and Clyde? What was her name? Was it Mia Farrow? I think it was Mia Farrow. So look up the original. I haven't seen the original yet, but I do want to watch it because one of my friends were suggesting to me online that I should go back and see what the times were like when they first made the film with Steve McQueen and Mia Farrow, and then you compare it to 1999's. I want to say, was it 1990? Was it 99 or 97? I think it was 97. The Thomas Crown Affair, really good movie. So your fan, well, maybe not. Yeah, your kids are all grown up now. They're allowed.
Yeah, they're all grown.
So go ahead and watch it. It's a fun heist movie if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I like them. They're good.
Bottom line is, I think Terry and I are going to be exchanging a few different movie lists in the form of
Absolutely.
emails or
Absolutely.
something to that effect. But once again, we are here with historical fiction writer Teri M Brown on, and I quote, don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for her, whether you're joining us live or on the replay, feel free to drop them in the comments of the live chat. Be more than happy to hear from you. My next question, Terry, what fascinates you the most about historical fiction and why?
I know that history is written by the winner. So typically when you pick up a history book in school, you get one view, whatever view it is that's the current popular view. And then you get to hear about some of the main people that everyone has heard about. But there's so much more to history, and there's so many other sides, and there are people that you never really get to hear about. And I think that's why I really love the historical fiction. Is I like finding a story or a character, or a setting maybe that we're not used to seeing in a book, and then just exploring it, like what's going on here. Although I write historical fiction, I tell everyone what I really write is character driven fiction, and it's about the characters. And yes, the character happens to be in, Soviet Ukraine, or yes, the character happens to be in World War II, but it's way more about those characters and what they're feeling and experiencing while in that setting than it is about the setting itself. So I just really like that exploration of what's really happening. These are real people. Real people lived history. And sometimes you get this, I don't know, it's like in your mind, it happened, but it's kind of a them thing. And it's long ago and doesn't seem relevant, but it is relevant. So I like being able to find that relevance and bring it in and help people explore concepts that are just really different. In An Enemy Like Me, that's my World War II novel. And really what we're looking at is what makes an enemy. Because we've got a first generation German American. He fights in World War II for the United States, ends up in Germany. He realizes he's more like the enemy than he is different from the enemy. I mean, they speak the same language that was spoken in his home. And so it's what makes an enemy, and how do we go about doing that in our minds? And what is war? And how does war affect people and families? And yeah, so that's what I love about historical fiction is it allows you to kind of like explore things that you might otherwise leave unexplored.
Well put. You know your history. Very good. With with that being said, is there a genre that you hope to tackle one day or write a story in for at some point?
So right now, actually, so I've got a third historical fiction coming out in January, but I'm writing a fourth one, and it's a comedy. It's a current modern day comedy, and it's only got one point of view. All of my other books have at least 3 points of view. This is one point of view written in first person, present tense, and it's about a woman who's going through menopause. And she's also recently divorced, and she's started dating again, and it's hilarious is what it is. And when I tell women, so it's definitely aimed at, women probably 40 plus. And most women, if I say to them, yeah, I'm writing a book about a woman going through menopause, they start to laugh. And so I think that on the back of the book, that's what I'm going to put. Just Peg, she's going through menopause. ... Because women understand there's all of the, the weight gain and the hot flashes and the thinning hair and the dry skin and the can't remember where I put my glasses, and then you realize they're on top of your head, and the 16 times a day that you lose your cell phone, and all of those things that are happening. And it's funny. It's not funny when you're in it, but it's funny when you can step back and look at it the way other people can see it, so when you see it happening on screen or in a book.
So from historical fiction to what is known as a comedy.
Yes! That's awesome!
Well, I tell people all the time, I'm either really going to do this fabulous thing or I'm committing author suicide, and we will see which way that happens to be. But it fits in with the character-driven fiction.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give you that. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope the odds are ever in your favor.
Thank you.
There's a popular book series for you that goes back to the 2010s, if I'm not mistaken, or the late 2000s. It was one of maybe the books came out in the late 2000s, but then the movies were adapted in the 2010s. I can't remember. Let us know in the chat if you know what I'm talking about, because it was quite popular back then. And it's actually getting a bit of a resurgence because there's going to be a prequel movie that's coming out later this year. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is coming. And it looks really good because it takes place right before the events of the very first ever Hunger Games event with a very young, up-and-coming President Snow. So before he becomes Donald Sutherland, who's one of the greatest actors of all time, you get to see who Snow was way back when in the day when the Capitol was really starting to consume that power and be corrupted by evil. So if you're into that sort of thing, if you're a fan of something known as origin stories, this could be something to look into. Just throwing that out there. And yes, Terry, the trailer is online for you to peruse if you want.
Thank you.
So you can get an idea of like, what is this movie going to look like? Who's in it? It's got a really good cast behind it. I mean, it's got some young up and coming actors playing younger iterations of Snow and some other people that were in the Capitol. Viola Davis plays a role in the movie, which is cool. So you get a mixture of like new talent and veteran talent. So, I'll just leave that one.
And when is this coming out?
Towards the end of the year. I think it's November.
Okay.
I think it's November, I want to say. I don't think it's October. I think it's November, like when it goes into November, December, the holiday season, excuse me. So if that interests you, feel free. And if not, hey, I'm just throwing that out there as a for instance, ladies and gentlemen. Fascinating stuff. But I want to let you know that this episode, or should I say every episode of Oh, by the way, before I get to that, Philip Miller, our good friend, is here. He says, art imitates life. All fiction writing does the same.
That's true.
You're a wordsmith today, aren't you, Philip Miller? Well done, man. Well done. Good to see you. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. With that being said, this episode and every episode, should I say, of And I Quote, is indeed powered by our good friends over there at Poddex. Now get this. Poddex are the hottest, and I mean red hot, new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcast. You simply shuffle up the cards, you ask a question, and you let the content roll. Get yours today at poddex.com and use that promo code Ryan10. That's RYAN10. Ryan10 for 10% off your order. Poddex wants to know, if you were the captain of a ship, what would you call it?
This reminds me of trying to title my books, and I hate that. I don't know. I have no idea what I would name it.
All right, we could just call it the USS Historical Fiction.
Yeah, that would be boring. No. See, and this is what I do. This is what I do when I try to come up with a title, like Sunflowers Beneath the Snow. It took me 6 weeks of back and forth with the editor before we came up with the title. I would rather write a manuscript than a title, because you have to say so much in just a couple of words. In a manuscript, you've got, 80,000 words, and you can get everything you need put in there. In a title, you have to say all of that in 5 words or less.
Yeah. Trying to put together a title, you basically write down all your ideas on a sheet of paper. You write it down on a whiteboard or a board on your wall, and you throw darts and see what sticks.
See what sticks, yeah.
I suppose.
I've learned that I throw it out to my readers now. So my third book is Daughters of Green Mountain Gap.
Ooh.
I didn't have an idea for the name. I kind of gave them a general, hey, this is like the what's going to go on the back of the book. Help me. And several different people gave ideas that I kind of combined things they said, and the next thing you knew, I had a title. It was the easiest title I've come up with so far.
Well, hey, 2 thumbs way, way up for putting together a title. Poddex wants to know, what gives you butterflies in your stomach?
Oh, good butterflies or bad butterflies?
You can interpret it however you wish.
Okay,
Good or bad, doesn't matter.
What gives me butterflies? Getting, like, any day now, my new book should come in the mail. And when you open it up and you see it for the first time and you open it up and my name is on the top, I'm still a new enough author that still gives me butterflies. In fact, I had said to my editor, I hope that never goes away. That is such an awesome feeling. You open it up and there's your name and it's like, oh, it's my name.
It's a beautiful thing, your name being up in lights up on the marquee.
Yeah, well, I don't have it that far yet, but that's okay.
You'll get there. You'll get there. You'll get there. If I can get there, you can get there. Anybody can get there. If someone were to put my name on a marquee of a giant event center or a venue that I was speaking at or being a part of or acting in some way, shape, or form, I would have thought, we made it. We did it. This is it. Like, my name's up in lights, everybody. It took me X amount of decades to make it happen, but it happened.
It happened. Yep.
It's never too early or too late to dream, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just put it to you that way. Which actor or actress would you want to play you in a movie of your life?
Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question. These are
Jeopardy theme.
Yeah, like, seriously, like, these are kinds of questions like I never think about. So, like, I don't even have a good idea of who I'd want to play my life. Who would you have play me? I mean, you've met me now for this short period of time.
Wow, way to put a non-existent casting director on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Elizabeth Mitchell is one of the first actresses that comes to my mind. She's really good. She was on the TV series Lost, which was a good show for the most part. I know people don't like the way it ended, but that's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
She was in the Santa Claus movies with Tim Allen. Elizabeth Mitchell was. So she's gotten, over time she's gotten older. So I think she would fit the bill respectively.
Did you just call me old?
No, young at heart. Sorry. Don't worry.
I believe he just called me old.
No, sorry.
Listeners, did you hear that?
I'm so sorry. Didn't mean to. I'm not trying to disrespect my guests in any way, shape, or form ever in the history of this program, but Elizabeth Mitchell would fit the bill.
I see.
What we are attempting to do. Sorry, I probably should have phrased it differently. I apologize to the viewers and the listeners for that. Let's see. Elizabeth Mitchell is one. I'm trying to think of some other known actors. I'm trying to think of some other actresses here. Oh my gosh.
Do you see how hard this question is?
This is rough. The only one that comes to mind is Elizabeth Mitchell. So if anyone else, Sonia Walger. Sonia Walger was another
I know who that is.
Who was featured on. She's been in numerous TV series over the years, but the one that she's most known for is, once again, Lost. She was on Lost. She was Desmond's love interest, Penny. Okay. Penny was her character name. She played Desmond's love. I love you, Penny. It's just that love story between Desmond and Penny. Oh, ripped my heart out. So good. Look up the scenes. Are on YouTube. # not a sponsor, even though we're streaming on that platform. By the way, Philip Miller chimes in. He says, haha, good morning. Your conversation got my mind going. Ship. If Ryan can do it, anyone can. Laughing emojis. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to be optimistic here, Philip. So, yeah, you're welcome. And then Philip Miller says legacy author. Yeah, I mean, well.
Ooh, that would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice. We'll see what happens. You never know. Poddex wants to know, what would you do with an extra hour in a day?
Oh, man. I would go to the beach. I would go to the beach and I would walk, and I would want that extra hour to actually be at sunrise so that you had an extra hour of that beautiful sky. And I love watching the sun come up in the morning. And oh yeah. And so instead of having that, 15 or 20 minutes of beautiful red and orange and everything, you could have over an hour walk with it being that lovely. That's what I'd do. Go to the beach.
Great answer. It's funny if I'm able to get up and see a sunrise when the sun's rising. I want to hear I want to put on my shades like Horatio, have the CSI Miami. So like, well, it looks like the sun is about to rise. Yeah. And then the theme song just kicks in. And you got me going across the screen. You got my castmates coming along the screen, like, Emily Proctor and Rex Lynn and Jonathan Togo, which, by the way, Jonathan Togo's character on that show was named Ryan Wolf. So there was a Ryan on CSI Miami. It's like, yo, if they ever reboot the show and Jonathan Togo has like a brother that no one ever knew about, I'm more than happy to play the brother. So
there you have it.
But
just so you know, to date, I've never had a sunrise that has been that noisy.
True.
Just thought I'd let you know.
That's fair. That's completely fair. But I don't know. I just thought of something funny when you were mentioning that. And not that that's a bad thing. I mean, looking up at a sunrise is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's one of the most gorgeous sights any individual can see.
And at the ocean, seeing it with the ocean waves rolling in, there's just something. Starting your day out that way kind of helps you kind of gain some kind of like connection and equilibrium, it just and then you can get your day started.
I would agree with that. That's a great answer to the respective question. If you have any thoughts about any of these questions we've been posing to our guests on this episode of And I Quote, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. What would you do with an extra hour in a day? What is something that gives you butterflies? If you were the captain of a ship, what would you name it? Feel free to drop any and all those thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. What is something you love that is vintage?
That is vintage.
Could be anything.
My husband.
Yep. Whoa. Okay. Now we're getting into the deep rabbit hole, ladies and gentlemen.
No. Okay. So what I've started really loving recently is I like vinyl albums. I like pulling them out and listening to the music and hearing the little bumps and the little scratches and and I recognize that, when you put music and you're streaming it or you have it on your CDs or whatever, that you don't have all of that extra noise, but there's something about it that and maybe it's because I'm older and I'm 60 and I remember music sounding like that growing up. So maybe that's what does it. But I just love hearing music and hearing that just hearing the needle on it. I don't know. There's something fabulous about it. So I'd say that's what it is.
Wonderful stuff. And Philip, I don't know why you're asking me this question. He says, I thought Ryan wakes up at the crack of noon. Listen, a long time ago, I used to get up around that time because I was just so used to sleeping in. But nowadays, I'm getting up even earlier as I've matured and gotten older. So with that being said, Philip, I get up at 9 a.m. every morning. So when the day starts,
wow.
I'm ready to go. Like I used to get up at like 10, 11, 12, whatever. Nowadays, I'm getting up at 9, which is an improvement for someone like me at my tender age. So there you go.
By 9 o'clock this morning, I had already been to the grocery store.
That's great. That's great. I don't go to the store until noon. So thank you. Philip Miller says, ooh, she is old. Laughing emojis with the vinyl comment that you made earlier. Philip Miller says probably has 8 tracks too.
Yeah.
Do you? Do you have those? Are you in possession?
I actually don't have any of those.
Okay.
I don't.
Just making sure. I wasn't sure if you had those in your possession or not. Philip Miller says, you're doing good. Thank you, Philip Miller. I've improved my getting up and going to sleep times. Because as a wise person once said, early to bed, early to rise, makes a young man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So, you gotta play the tunes, man. Jeez Louise. It's all these. Philip, we love you, man. We really do. We love the comments. We appreciate your support. Appreciate anyone who's commenting or chatting. Good heavens. I get up at 9. It's an improvement. It's an improvement. It's better than what I was doing a couple years ago.
It's an improvement. Your mother would be proud.
I think she would. I think she would be. I think in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, she would be. Yeah,
She would be.
So this is a bonus question, if you don't mind me asking. So,
No.
are you familiar with something known as a Comic-Con, and have you ever been to one before, or would you be interested in ever attending one?
So I do know what one is. My youngest daughter has attended many. She has created her own costumes for many. I have been in the home while she has been producing her costumes. I have purchased her tickets to go to some for Christmas as, Christmas presents. I personally have never been to one. Would I go to one? Yeah, I think I would. I think it would be cool to see it at least once. I would like to go with my daughter so that I had, like someone who could like guide me through the nerdiest portions that I might get lost in, but I think that it would be fun. Yeah.
Well, that's just dandy, because we've had the pleasure of meeting so many wonderful independent artists and independent writers at those events. I mean, now granted, historical fiction's a bit outside of the norm for a Comic-Con, but at the same time, you don't know what works until you give it a shot. So who knows? Maybe one day you'll be tabling at a certain convention, or you can stick to your book events and book conventions, which there's no shortage of those, and just keep on rolling. So we wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Also, I want to take a moment and say thank you to Teri M Brown, historical fiction writer, for being our guest on this specific episode of And I Quote. Teri, it's been a pleasure and a wonderful experience having you here with us. We greatly appreciate it. We hope to have you back again real soon. Where can the person watching or listening to this follow you on social media and keep up to date with everything you got going on?
I am on every social media that's out there. The easiest way would be to go to my website, which is my name, TeriMBrown.com, and that's Teri with one R. And then click on any one of the little icons up there. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm even on TikTok, which is crazy. And I've got a thread now, and I don't know what I'm doing with it yet, but I have one. So yeah, follow me there. And you can also sign up for my newsletter and just send me a chat like, hey, Teri, want to know more about like what you'd name your ship, which I've decided I'd probably call eclectic.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. Well, we appreciate you being here with us, Teri. Do greatly appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. We look forward to having you back again someday, somehow, because historical fiction is a genre that doesn't always get explored. So we would like to explore it even more so as we go down the line. But once again, my name is Ryan of Neuroculture. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Check out all the wonderful things we're doing. And guess what? We're this close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. Once we do, we're going to throw a great big live stream celebration with returning guests. Maybe Teri M Brown will want to come back and visit with us and talk more about the fascination of historical fiction with us. I think that would be fascinating. So the only way we can do that is when you tell your friends and they tell their friends, and so on and so on and so on. You know how these things go. So let's get to 1,000. We know we can do it. We can do it together. And also new episodes of Ahsoka's Weekly Mission, where we discuss the spoiler-heavy discussions, I should say, of the latest episodes of Ahsoka, which is currently streaming on Disney+. Wednesdays, 8 p.m. EST. That is going to be a lot of fun. And we got some great things lined up for everyone. We got shows, we got specials. We also got some very special guests who are going to be joining us in the weeks and months to come on And I Quote. So the best thing you can do is like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell so you get notified of when our videos go up and they go live. All our announcements about future shows will be made on our Facebook and YouTube channels respectively. So check those out. And remember, life is better when reading. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Sweet dreams they placed on me inside my mind.
secrets, trust, worth. The bond between souls intertwined within otherworldly intrigue. Michaela Jade brings forth the Elite Warrior series, a collection of dark fantasy romance novels set in a twisted world where power lusts in the hearts of men and devotion seduces the souls of women. Warrior's Secret, Warrior's Trust, and Warrior's Worth. Available now at authormichaelajade.com.
Good morning. Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.